All right, welcome back to IE. We're going to have our fourth read from 18 Days Underground. And today we're going to read a story called A Bus Ride Through Fire. Keep in mind that these are all real stories. These actually happened, so you can imagine yourself in all of these different stories and what you might do. This one might come a little closer to home as many of you ride a bus. A Bus Ride Through Fire. Kevin McKay was worried. He had been a bus driver for only a few months, and normally his job of driving children to and from Ponderosa Elementary School in Paradise, California, was not that exciting. But today was different. Today, Paradise was on fire, and it was up to McKay to get a bus full of children to safety. The wildfire started on November 8 of 2018. It was called the Camp Fire. It was one of several major wildfires that devastated parts of Northern California. Flames roared through the woods and into neighborhoods. Houses, stores, and other buildings had no chance against the fire, which consumed everything in its path. Even schools were not safe from the flames. McKay had seen wildfires before, but this one really scared him. He had never seen a fire where flames came down from so many different directions. His family had evacuated the area a few days earlier, but McKay stayed behind to concentrate on his job. I just knew that things were going to continue to escalate, he said. Many of the children at Ponderosa Elementary had also evacuated, but that morning as the fire grew closer, almost 24 children were still at the school. The school principal decided that the children had to get out of there. McKay, who happened to be at the school with an empty bus, said he was up to the job. Around 8 o'clock that morning, 22 children walked through the smoky air and climbed onto the bus. 2 teachers, Abby Davis and Mary Ludwig, climbed on board as well. The school principal followed behind them in his truck. McKay started down the road, but it was slow going. By 9 o'clock, an hour into the journey, they had only gone a few blocks. Everyone was trying to get out of town, and the road was packed with cars. McKay inched along, barely able to move the bus through the heavy traffic. He and the teachers wondered if they should abandon the bus, but they knew that they did not have a chance of getting out on foot. So McKay drove on. Meanwhile, Ludwig and Davis walked up and down the aisle of the bus. They asked the older children to buddy up with the younger ones. The teachers spoke to the children and kept them calm. Keeping calm became harder to do as the bus began to fill with smoke. McKay was impressed with both the teachers and the students, whom he called his little troopers. But the children were scared, and so were the teachers. The sky was really menacing, Ludwig later said. It was very scary. It looked like Armageddon. An hour later, the bus had only traveled about 2 miles. It was dark and smoky and beginning to get more and more dark, almost like dusk, McKay said. The children even got more nervous. As the bus inched past the burning McDonald's restaurant and other burning buildings, the children started to panic. "I can't breathe," one child cried. Others said that they felt sleepy or sick from the smoke. McKay knew he had to act fast to keep his young passengers safe. But what could he do? Just then, a young man approached the bus and held up a water bottle. McKay opened the door and the man handed the bottle to him. He explained that he knew there were children on the bus and wanted to help, but he had nothing to offer but the water bottle. The young man didn't know it, but his simple gift was just what the children on the bus needed. McKay took off his shirt and poured the water bottle over it, and then the teachers tore the shirt into strips and gave each one to a child to put over his or her mouth. The wet cloth helped to filter the smoke and made it easier to breathe. 10-year-old Charlotte Mears was one of the students on the bus. She was scared, but tried to think of good thoughts and go to her happy place. She later described the journey. "The smoke made it so hard to see. It was so crazy, and there were fires left and right, everywhere you looked," she said. Suddenly there was a huge bang on the side of the bus, It felt like someone had punched the vehicle. A car had hit the bus as it moved through heavy traffic. McKay did not stop to check. He just drove on. Then McKay saw someone waving for help on the side of a road. A preschool teacher from another school was stranded next to her broken down car. McKay eased the bus over and opened the door. The teacher hurried on board, and the journey continued. As minutes stretched into hours, Abby Davis wondered if she was going to die. The fire was everywhere. The smoke was almost too thick to see through. She and the others said prayers. Davis knew she had to keep her own fear under control. I held back from crying the entire time, but we were so focused on those kids, and that great responsibility is what really kept us going, Davis said. Finally, at 2:30, more than 5 hours after their fiery journey started, McKay made it to Biggs Elementary School, 30 miles away, where the families of the children and teachers were waiting anxiously. A relieved McKay delivered all of his passengers to safety and waited there until every child had been picked up. When Abby Davis's husband arrived, he hugged McKay so hard he almost lifted this bus driver off his feet. McKay didn't see his family until later that night, and he lost his own home to the campfire. The driver did not get excited over these daring rescues, but other people did. I was where I was supposed to be. I felt blessed. Mary Ludwig had a different explanation for their amazing and successful rescue. We had a bus driver from heaven, she said. And that is the end of A Bus Ride Through Fire. Hope you enjoyed it. Take just a minute and summarize the story in your Canvas text box.